Welcome back to 10 Customs, and this is the third episode in the Ruby's front Dana 30 axle rebuild video. This one is a split between stuff that I shot 8 months ago and stuff that I shot 3 days ago. So it's kind of haphazard in the middle there till I kind of get moving on a new part of the project. But after this one, everything should be up to date as far as the next episode of this axle rebuild will be me finishing it and putting it in underneath Ruby. So bear with me on this last episode where I shot a whole bunch 8 months ago and finished it up 3 days ago. So enjoy. And we're back at it again. This axle video may be one of the longest videos I've ever shot. This is taking months to do by the time I get parts in and the wrong parts in. And now we're gonna do the front seal on this thing. Since we got the U-joints done and the ball joints done, we'll do the front seal on it because I know, well, I don't know if it's leaking, but you might as well do it before we put it underneath Ruby. There is something with these that you do have to be aware of. There is what's called a crush sleeve in here. It sets the preload on your pinion gear to your bearing. Am I going to do this right? No. Am I going to do it where it's going to work just fine? Probably. You're supposed to replace that crush that crush spacer every time you redo this, and I don't have one, and I really want to get the seal done, get this axle in. So what I did, and I did on Rusty too, and it seemed to work just fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the nut in relation to the yoke, and the yoke in relation to the actual pinion thread stub input shaft piece. So I'll get a line 1, 2, 3. So all these line back up again when I'm done. Honestly, the yoke really doesn't matter, but I like to put it back where it was. And I'm going to count the amount of turns it takes to get this yoke, this nut off. And that way, when I put it back on, it'll go back on the exact same amount of turns, which means the preload on that crush spacer shouldn't change. And we should be fine. So what I'm going to do is going to take a punch and put a line in it like that. Like that. And like that. So if you look on here, there's a notch there that lines up with that one there, which lines up with that one right there. So those 3 notches line up close enough. These two are actually these two are the important ones anyway. So now I can take this nut off, and I'll count the amount of turns it takes to get it off, and I'll put it on to the exact same spot again. I'm going to mark my socket as well, just to make it easier to see. It does have the embossed numbers in it, but it's just easier to see it with a color when it's spinning around. I'm going to try to do it slow anyway, and I'm hoping this nut comes off. We're going to find out here in a second. There it goes, already turning. Okay, so kind of lined up our green mark with that, with our dash, but our nut's turning, and we haven't gone around once yet. There's 1, 2, 3. I can't turn it by hand yet. 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 and about a half. So, I mean, it's only going to start threading in one spot. So 7.5 turns to put that nut back on. And this should just slide off. Wonderful. A lot of water in there. We're going to try to I'm going to clean up in here where there's a lot of grease and water where the seal goes in. That way I don't get any more water into where there's already water inside. So I'm going to clean this up really quick and we'll put the seal in. Now we'll see how easy this is to get out. The seal's slightly different than the new seal, but the new seal has a flange that, same as rusty, it flanges over top. It's easier to kind of peel out. So I'm just going to try to beat it until it comes out. Well, maybe we can grab a lip of it. Or do this. Make it smaller. And there we go, it's out. Mangled but out. I didn't do any damage to anything. We'll come in here and clean out the seal edge a little bit. Just a little bit of crud in here, nothing crazy actually. Okay, it feels rubbery, like it's almost like sealant from the seal. This edge is just in there, which is easy to get out with a little bit of brake cleaner. Yeah, awesome. Let me get this cleaned out and then we'll pop the new seal in. The seal sealing surfaces are cleaned up. I cleaned up the yoke a little bit because the yoke had a little bit of rust on it from sitting, so I just ran some real light sandpaper over it. That is the perfect size for that. That's where that's supposed to fit, so that we know that's correct. And then this should, yep, that's the right one for there. You can see how this one kind of lips over the edge compared to how this one was just flat. So just a little bit difference in style. I don't know if this was an original seal or not. There's nothing on it that says it was or it wasn't. But this is the kind that everybody uses now anyway. So yeah, we're gonna drive this back in. But before we do that, we use some of this anaerobic sealant. If you're not unfamiliar with anaerobic sealant, it is a sealant. There is a sealant on here, but because this is kind of pitted, I'm going to put a little bit more on. It's not going to hurt it, and it gives it kind of like a lubrication. You only need a skim coat of this stuff. But anyway, anaerobic sealant seals in the absence of air. So why it doesn't seal in this bottle, I'm not 100% sure. Unless obviously the bottle's not airtight, but you'd think it would be when it comes sealed from the factory. I don't know. There you go, just a light coating around the whole thing. Won't hurt it. The other thing I'm going to put a coating of this anaerobic sealant on is these splines. You can even use like liquid thread dope or blue Loctite on these splines. The reason you do that is because there's no seal on this piece. So when it goes on there, nothing stops oil and grease from coming out other than the nut and you know, the nut's not on these splines. So I'm going to put a little bit, once I'm ready for it, I'm going to put a little bit of the anaerobic sealant on these threads. When you slide it on there, it'll keep any of the grease and everything from seeping out that through the splines. That should be it. The new front seal is on. We will put a little bit of this on our splines. Like so. Now this is where it becomes important to line everything back up again. Put a little bit of grease on this. Okay, that is not anaerobic sealant, that is wheel bearing grease. Just a touch so we don't damage the seal going in. Wipe off this washer so that when the nut goes back on, it goes on cleanly, or as cleanly as possible anyway. Be easier to do it now. Okay, everything looks good. We have our nick in the thing there. This will line right up with that. Yep, just there. And we are seated. There we go. Now we take our nut right here, and we know we're 7.5 turns. And we know it's going to start, I said, about there. It's only going to start in one spot anyway. That's it. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So that's half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't even get it to 5, so now we use our impact. We'll line up our green dash again. That's 5. There's 6. So one more time around should seat it. A little bit more. And there we go. We are seated. That's 7.5 turns. It feels terrible, honestly. So we are. We're gonna pull the back cover now and see, seal up the back gasket here and take a look inside, clean out anything that's in there, and look at that. So hold on. All of the bolts are out. Really, all I'm hoping for here is to not find a massive rust in here. I know these guys off-roaded this Jeep that I bought these axles off of was pretty beat and was off-roaded. So I'm just hoping not to find rusty gears. This is the opposite axle of the Lincoln Locker axle. So I know it was off-roaded. Does that sound like it was moving to anyone? Oh yeah, it is. It's moving. There we go. We're getting a seam. Well, it's never good when I'm this far into it and nothing's coming out so far. I don't think that's a very good sign at all. Oh, no, here we go, here we go. Well, it's grease, or oil. Oil's good. Oh, there we go, that's good. That's good, at least something was in it. Not pretty. At least it was something. I don't see any metal in it, per se. No. No metal in that sludge at the bottom. That's fantastic. Doesn't look like much water. Some water was in it, or... yeah, some water was in it, because you can see a little bit of rust on the carrier. Yeah, there's a little bit of rust buildup in here from it sitting somewhere, and a little bit of water got into it, but minimal for what I was expecting, actually. It's in better condition than the rear was. I think that crunchy I felt was rust falling into it from when I was cleaning out the front end. Those spin nice. The bevel gears spin great. I don't see any strange wear on them. No broken teeth. Ring gear. No broken or damaged teeth. Everything looks good there. The wear spot with the grease on it is pretty nice, actually. Better than I thought for how much play was in the front end. Yeah, that's actually in really good shape. See if you can find the number on it. On the ring gear. It's 4918. I think it's 4918. So I can take those numbers and make sure I've got the matching set to the rear end. They should be. They were out of the same vehicle, but remember I did have to change the carrier over no, I didn't. I didn't change the carrier. I just changed the spider gears. So yeah, this came as a set. So I'll double check it, but this should be fine. I'm going to clean this. A little bit of RTV to put this cover back on, and spray some cleaner inside there. And next time you see it, we will be ready to put the axles back in and put the knuckles back on. Got the surfaces cleaned up, covers clean, all this is cleaned up. We're going to RTV it back on. I don't have the gasket for it, and most of the guys will say that the RTV is just as good just because over time the imperfections in the case. This RTV is great. I use the black for this. Rain's coming probably within the next half hour, so we're probably not going to finish this today, but I want to get the cover back on so at least it's dry and cured before the rain comes. Or, well, dry. Probably not cured, but sealed. Just going to put a dab all the way around it. That should be good enough. Smear just real light, smooth it out. Perfect. Perfect. And a little bit of waterproofing on that as well. These only go on one way. The ring gear has to sit in this opening. A bit of paper towel goo. Put the tag back on even though there's no tag. Okay, think we are sealed good enough. Enough to keep water out anyway. I'll come back tomorrow and just make sure they're all tight. But we squished out pretty much everywhere. So that should be good. A little bit didn't squish out there, but there it is. Now it's squished out. Okay. They're all pretty well snug. I'll come back tomorrow and I'll check them all with a wrench or a ratchet and just make sure they're all tight, but it did squish out a little bit everywhere, so we should be good there. Like I said, rain's coming. I can see the dark clouds that way. So we'll call it a night for tonight. The next step is to start installing everything. So put the knuckles on, put the axles in, and it'll be ready to be put into Ruby. And welcome back. It is not anywhere near the last part of this video you saw. It's actually about 8 months later. And how you can know it's 8 months later, well, I'll show you. One, I think in the last video I was wearing a sweatshirt while I was working on this. Now I'm sweating, and I'll show you the other reason why. The last time we worked on this axle, and I think it was doing the U-joints. I haven't even gone back to look yet at the last episode. Well, that wasn't there. So I think we were working over here, and that wasn't in the background. So yeah, it's been 9 months, 8 or 9 months, since the last time we worked on this episode. So I am hoping to slap this axle back together and be done with it within a short amount of time. It really shouldn't take us that long. The hard part's done, everything's been swapped over. I was looking at this yesterday, trying to recall what I did. And again, I haven't looked back at the episode, so I don't remember what I shot already. There's a new seal in the front of this thing, and this is brand new RTV. So I'm assuming I did all this. And I'm like, I was going to go, well, I mean, I should replace the seals in here. But then I saw that I just RTV'd this, and I must have looked at the seals while I was in there and said, they're good enough. So we're just going to slap it back together. I have the rest of the parts there, the new parts, some seals and stuff like that. And then the parts that we worked on, I think in the last episode, was getting these two drive shafts, the U-joints in, which they are in. The knuckles are done. So let's reassemble this thing. So there's a little bit of rust. This one's not as bad. But I am going to take some 1000 grit sandpaper right where the seal rides. This axle looks like it's newer. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just going to hit it and polish up just a smidge. It has been sitting out in the garage, so make sure no really bad surface rust has gotten to it and tears up the seals anymore. Again, I think if they would have been that bad, I would have replaced them. I don't remember. If they leak, at least it's just to pop it apart and put new seals in. And that's actually kind of easier on the Jeep. Okay, so that one's kind of cleaned up. This one definitely picked up some rust from sitting. I think we'll be okay. We'll be okay. And seals wouldn't solve this problem anyway. If I had to put new seals into this, then I have to replace this axle anyway, because it's got a slight bit of pitting. So new seals wouldn't solve pitting, and I'm not spending that kind of money on Ruby right now. Get the crud out of these splines, and we'll slide these in. We'll start with what I'm going to consider the harder side. It's really not more difficult, just this tube is a lot longer, so when you get up into here, this tends to drag and pick up crud and whatever. So I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the splines and where the seal's going to go, so that way when this thing hits the seal, less chance of doing any more damage or any damage. It should just slide right in. There are no snap rings on this, if you recall. This literally just slides right in. I'm going to try to keep it toward the top, but again, it doesn't always work that way. And keeping it toward the top isn't that much better anyway, because there's crud everywhere. I just had to set it down because there's no more grip on it. There we go. And we're in. Pretty simple. Yep, I can feel it trying to turn it. So we're definitely in. Do the same thing on this one. Come over here. This one's a lot shorter, a little easier to hit dead on. And that's it. Those are in. That was easy. Now that we've gotten those in, we're going to take them right back out again, because we can't put those in until our knuckles are on. Just making sure that they fit, because you never know what could have changed. So we're going to take them back out again and put our knuckles on. It is time to finally install these knuckles. And I hope that I can grease them once they're in. I don't even know if that's going to be possible. We'll just see. It's a pretty simple process. Hopefully these just slide in like they're supposed to. I'll get that right in. I'll have to check the torque spec on this thing to make sure that it's correct. That is not sitting right. Here's our upper sleeve nut that goes on. I'm going to anti-seize these things. I know that'll change this torque spec just slightly, but I'd also rather have them not seize in there forever, just in case I've got to get them out again ever. That at least keeps it centered going up as we tighten this. There's a torque spec on this. I know this upper one's 85. I don't remember what the lower one is. I just went and borrowed a torque wrench. I just want to do this right and be done. So this bottom nut goes to 85 foot-pounds. I have it set. So I want to pivot a little bit, I think. Actually, if I rotate it, it won't. There we go. It might stay on there. Okay, it's 85 on that one. This one goes to 60, the castle nut. So we'll back this off to 60. Come on. Do you hate it when you're doing this and it's just, you're like that one snap of a bolt away from feeling it's right? Okay, there we go. That's 60 on that one. And then put our castle nut on. And we're going to do this to 100 foot-pounds. And then whatever it is to line up the cotter pin. Oop, 90. Whoop, we're past. Hold on. 90. 100. Okay. And our cotter pin looks like it'll go in. Okay. That one's in. This one is in. It means now we can actually slide our axle into this one. This guy here. I'm sure I just picked up a ton of crud on that, but that's in. Now what I've noticed, and it's going to kind of hold us up for tonight. Once I'll be able to do the other side to this point, but there's going to be no way to grease that Zerk once this axle is in. So I'm going to have to grease that. I'm going to have to grease that before I finish up installing the spindle on this side. Let me get the other side to the stage that this side is at, and then tomorrow I'll pick up a grease gun, grease these, and we'll get the spindles put on, and the axle will be pretty much ready to be put back in the Jeep, with a couple minor mods that I have to make to this axle, but we'll show you that tomorrow. I went up to Harbor Freight today after work, and I picked up a grease gun. Like I said, I don't know how I've ever gone and been a mechanic as long as I have and not had a grease gun of my own. I mean, I've obviously used them a lot. I use them at work all the time as a motorcycle mechanic, but I've never had my own, so here's my own. I'm going to pull this axle back out, and we will grease up this ball joint, actually this side of ball joints. Do the same thing on that side because that knuckle is on and done. Same as this, torqued everything and ready to go. So let's get this part of the axle done. So I just greased the other side, but the lighting over there is terrible, so you really couldn't see much. So let's do it on this side where you got better lighting. That's on. Oh, coming out. That was quick. I like to move it a little bit back and forth just to make sure it's getting into all the spots. Yeah, it is. It's just squishing out now, which is perfect. That's what we want. Okay, then up on this side. Like that. It's filling up like a donut. Let the air out. It's full of grease, but it's also full of air. I don't want it to pop, because that'd be bad. Oh, there's definitely plenty of grease in it. Okay. It's full. So we'll take it out. Okay, they're greased up. And with that, we can finally put these axles in for the final time. I'm going to pull off these rubber boots on this one. The rubber seals. Outer one. This inner one. And wipe it down real quick. Okay, with that cleaned off, we're going to finally slide this in for the final time. Try to keep from sliding the tube too much. Okay, that's in. We get the parts for it. Little plastic spacer. It only goes one way. Then the seal. The rubber seal goes that way. And then this bigger one, that slides all the way on. Like so. Just kind of presses into place on the flange. There we are. There we are, all the way on. Okay, that side's done. And with that, we're going to call this episode. The spindles have to go back on, but all of that is coming off of the axles that are currently on Ruby. So that's going to be part of the swapping this axle in, the brakes, the calipers, all that kind of stuff. The lockers, possibly, if they're 5-bolt lockers, they'll go on here. If they're 6-bolt lockers, we'll have to figure out what we're doing. But yeah, with that, we will end this as far as we can go. We replaced the ball joints. We replaced the U-joints. This front axle should be good. I'll just have to fill it with gear oil when it goes in. So that's it for this section. So thank you all for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope everybody has a great week.